My name's Colin. I live in Bath in the southwest of England. This is my channel, the A&A on my channel. And once again, it is time to give my thoughts on the Oscars for 2026. In this video, I will be doing my best picture predictions, my updated best picture predictions. This is the fourth of these videos I have done, and I've got my little plastic gold friend, and I've flipped over my backdrop. I mean, that's the poster to 2000 meters to Andreevka, which I think is a very strong shout for both international feature and documentary feature, which neither of which are categories I'm going to be talking about today. But I will be talking about best picture in the wake of the autumn film festival season having mostly finished. I mean, we have now finished Venice, Telluride and Toronto. The New York Film Festival is still to happen, but I think we now have a lot more films that people have actually seen and that people have actually responded to. So, yes, I think the time has now come to update my list. And basically the headlines since the last time I recorded is After the Hunt and J. Kelly down and Hamnet way up, which I didn't think was going to happen. And I do have a new number one in my list of 40 films I'm going to be talking about today. The 10 films I think are actually going to get nominated at this stage. 15 films I'm listing as contenders. And another 15 I've put in the category of maybe. So that's 3 different tiers. 40 films in all I'm going to be talking about. And the little up and down arrows you'll be seeing in the listings to my right here. Although that's your left, isn't it? But anyway, the little up and down arrows are going between tiers. I mean, I'm not too precious about the actual rankings 1 to 10 or 11 to 25. But going between tiers does get you a little marker, and obviously any new entries. And there are actually a couple of new entries in this list. But yes, let's get started. And my new number one is Sentimental Value, which I think has had a little bit of a hit to its potential, a little bit of a hit to its chances. Because it did play at TIFF, but it didn't get the International People's Choice Award. It actually finished second in that category, to No Other Choice, which is another film you can say has really gone up, and I will be talking about a little bit later. But I still think the Cannes bump of winning the Grand Prix, and as I've said before, I think most years it would have won the Palme d'Or, but Juliette Binoche and the other members of the jury wanted to make a political statement by having Jafar Panahi win the Palme d'Or. I think most years Sentimental Value would have won. I think it's a very strong shout to win international feature. Norway has submitted it to international feature. And I think, despite the sudden appearance of Hamnet at the very top of the tier, I think the choice for me is still Sentimental Value. Not that I've seen any of these films, but although I will be seeing Sentimental Value and Hamnet at some film festivals coming up quite soon. I mean, the Film Bath Festival, my local film festival here in my hometown of Bath, is coming up very shortly, and I've bought a lot of tickets to that. And they also do a touring program for the London Film Festival over in Bristol, and I'm going to be seeing Hamnet there. So yes, I will be seeing these films in about a month's time, which I'm really looking forward to. So I will have personal opinions on this race, but right now I think the choice is sentimental value. Despite the fact that Hamnet has had a remarkable rise since the last time I recorded one of these videos. The buzz that I was hearing as I recorded my last Best Picture video was that Hamnet wasn't very good. I mean, there had been some very early test screenings and people saying, oh, it's a downer, it's not very good, it's just Jessie Buckley crying for 90 minutes. It's not going to be anything. I mean, that was the vibe I was getting from the people who were talking about it. But then Hamnet gets rave reviews at Toronto and it wins the People's Choice Award. And often, I mean, not always, but often, the People's Choice Award goes to a crowd pleaser, a family friendly, or a sentimental film. I mean, there was a lot of people who were expecting Rental Family to win the PCA this year, but that didn't happen. And I think there were people who were disappointed by that. And I will be talking about Rental Family in a minute. But Hamnet won the PCA. And yes, there have been sort of like downers that have won it. I mean, like Room won the People's Choice Award at TIFF. But the fact that this won the People's Choice Award and the critics' reviews have been stellar for this film. I mean, the Metacritic score right now is 95. That's a lot. So yeah, Hamnet is suddenly a really, really big contender. And I think Jessie Buckley is now a shoo-in to win Best Actress, which is not nothing. But yeah, Hamnet, I'm not ready to put it on my number one slot yet, but yeah, suddenly it's right at the top of my list. And what was at the top of my list in my last video was Yorgos Lanthimos' Begonia. And that's now at number 3. The reactions to Begonia seem to be it's good but not great coming out of the 4 festivals. There's a lot of people saying, yes, it's weird, it's violent, it's off-putting. But that's what I liked about it, having seen the trailer. But is that good enough to be a genuine contender to win an Oscar for Best Picture? Probably not. So yeah, I think I was a little bit optimistic putting Begonia as my number 1 last time out, but yeah, it's still in my top 10. It's still going to be a nominee as far as I'm concerned, but it's at my number 3 slot. And at my number 4 slot, I have Sinners. I mean, my stance that I've always had about Sinners is starting to maybe look a little bit more mainstream, and people, a few more people are starting to take this on board. I've never thought that Sinners was going to be a winner at the Oscars because I think it's too good and it's too subtle. A film about race like Sinners basically is. If you want to win an Oscar, you need to be really, really blunt, and it needs to be a story, a narrative that a white audience can put themselves in and say, oh yeah, I would be the good person, I would behave the right way, I would be on the right side of history. And there isn't really an opportunity to do that in Sinners, because this idea of assimilation, you know, the vampires coming in and taking black culture and specifically saying that's what they're doing. I want your culture, I want your music, I want to absorb your music and turn it into something different. I mean, that's a very subtle message in Sinners, and I just don't think that's going to be enough to win any categories, probably. I mean, probably best song, maybe, although the Wicked songs are still in there. So I'll have to see, but I never thought that Sinners was going to be a juggernaut. as many people were. I mean, it was the first really, really big film to be released that you could call an Oscar contender. And it does have that sort of blockbuster attitude as well, which doesn't always help when it comes to Oscars. So I never thought Sinners was going to be a big thing. But I do think it's going to get nominated, and currently it's at my number 4. At number 5, I have Marty Supreme. Since the last time I recorded, there has been a trailer released for Marty Supreme, and it looks pretty good. I mean, it looks more like a character study of somebody with overwhelming ambition rather than a con man narrative or a caper narrative, which is kind of what it's been sold out as up until this point. It looks like, you know, somebody who believes in himself so strongly that he tries to make it happen. And that's a mildly different narrative, and perhaps gives Timothée Chalamet a better chance as a better actor. But honestly, despite having that trailer come out, I still don't really know enough about Marty Supreme. So at this stage, it is in my top 10, but it's kind of in my top 10 by default, because I don't really know what to do with it yet. I'm still not 100% convinced of what this is, because it didn't play any of the festivals, because it's got a pretty close release date. So we'll see. But right now, I think Marty Supreme is still in my top 10, and we shall see. And at number 6, I do still have It Was Just an Accident. I think it would be a statement, a very, very political statement, if the Academy recognised this film from a dissident Iranian filmmaker. I mean, just like Juliette Binoche and the Cannes jury did, saying this is the best film at the festival. That was a political statement. There's no two ways about it. You can't deny that was a political statement that Juliette Binoche and the other members of the jury made. And I think the Academy has the opportunity, and maybe even wants to do that, to make that political statement. Jafar Panahi made a best picture. I think he's also got very strong chances in director and original screenplay as well. Right now, I still have It Was Just an Accident in my top 10, and that's another film I'm actually going to be able to see at the Film Bath Festival in a couple of weeks, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm not 100% confident in this, but I can easily see a pathway for this happening. So for right now, It Was Just an Accident, the Palme d'Or winner, let's not forget, is in my top 10, is one of my nominees. Next up, we have Wicked for Good. I mean, and as I've always stated in these videos, until proven otherwise, it's a sequel. We know exactly what we're going to get. It was shot at exactly the same time as the first one, and maybe that might be a detriment. I mean, we just voted for this last year. Why would we do it again this year? That might be an issue. But if they voted Wicked as one of the best pictures of the year, why won't they vote Wicked for Good one of the best pictures of the year? So until proven otherwise, Wicked for Good is still in my top 10, although you will notice that Avatar is no longer in my top 10. But I think that's possibly has something to do with a personal bias, but we'll be talking about that in a minute. Next up, we have Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. And the reviews from its festival run, playing at both Toronto, I think it played at Venice as well, but it definitely played at Toronto. And the reviews weren't stellar. They were good, but they weren't great. I still judging by the two, now we've had 2 trailers for this film. Judging by those 2 trailers, I think Jeremy Allen White is a very strong shout for Best Actor. Is that enough to put it up into Best Picture despite the mediocre reviews, or relatively mediocre reviews? I think yes, because it looks like a strong central performance. And for some reason, as I've said previously, the Oscars really, really loves a music biopic. A Complete Unknown last year did not deserve the amount of love it got. I think it maybe deserved 2 of those Oscar nominations. I don't think James Mangold deserved for a director nomination for A Complete Unknown. Much as I love Monica Barbaro and liked her in the movie, I don't think she deserved a nomination for Best Supporting Actress. I do think Edward Norton and Timothée Chalamet deserved their nominations, but they like a music biopic, and again, until proven otherwise, the music biopic is staying in. So Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere is in my number 8 slot. And yeah, next we have One Battle After Another. I was not a believer in this film at all for my first couple of films, my first couple of videos. And then just after the day after I recorded my last Best Picture video, the second trailer for One Battle After Another was released. And I felt the need to record an addendum, record an extra bit to put into my last video because I was duly impressed. It looks good. And I mean, the embargo is still in place because One Battle After Another is getting a cinematic release really, really soon, both in America and here in the UK. Here in the UK, it's in 2 weeks' time. One Battle After Another is going to be released, and we've barely started Oscar season, we're already getting this. But it's Paul Thomas Anderson, and despite the embargo still being in place and therefore it doesn't have a Metacritic score yet, the rumours I've been hearing, the whispers, are that One Battle After Another is actually really good. So we'll have to see, but if that is true, and this is actually really, really good, it's Paul Thomas Anderson. He's done it before. Why wouldn't he do it again? I mean, he's one of those directors who the Academy loves, and why wouldn't they? I mean, he is a great director. So, if this is, a great piece of work by Paul Thomas Anderson, why wouldn't it get nominated? Why wouldn't it even win? I think this is the first time I've genuinely believed that One Battle After Another can actually win the Best Picture Oscar. We shall see, and I'll be able to see very, very quickly because, as I said, it's coming out in the cinema in a couple of weeks' time here in the UK. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. But I think, at the very least, it's firmly ensconced in the top 10 in my nomination list for Best Picture. And yeah, One Battle After Another is in my number 9 slot. And my last slot is a little bit of a risky one. I felt the need to put a Netflix film in my nomination list, in my top 10. Because I mean, it's weirdly unbalanced at the moment, because out of my 10, I've got 2 Focus Features films in Hamnet and Begonia, got 2 Warner Brothers films in Sinners and One Battle After Another, and I've got 2 Neon films in Sentimental Value and It Was Just an Accident. And 3 separate distribution companies getting Best Picture nominations. Since they've expanded it to 10, that has never happened. It would be an unprecedented situation if this happened. But my defence for this unusual statement is Searchlight really doesn't have anything. I mean, because Rental Family didn't really seem to be a strong contender, which we'll be talking about in a minute. Lionsgate doesn't have anything really. Sony Classics doesn't really have anything. So with those companies who usually get a film into the mix, if they don't have really, really strong contenders, why wouldn't 3 different companies do that? But I felt the need to put a Netflix film in, and like I said, the reviews for Jay Kelly weren't great. Frankenstein did surprisingly well, which I'll be talking about in a minute, but I ultimately decided that I think A House of Dynamite, Catherine Bigelow's White House thriller, would be my choice for the number 10 slot. And this got very, very positive reviews in its run in the Toronto Film Festival. It sounds absolutely fascinating, like a political thriller, a White House thriller of the 20 minutes of a missile attack on the United States of America. And we're seeing it from various different angles, from various different people. The same 20 minutes playing over and over and over again, which is a type of film I really, really like. I mean, I'm not sure if you can see it, but that is a poster for Rashomon, which, if you asked me, guns to my head, what is my absolute number one favourite film of all time, it is Rashomon. And that's kind of what this film seems to be. And if it's being directed by Catherine Bigelow, who is a director I love, and it's got people like Idris Elba, Rebecca Ferguson, and Greta Lee in it, this sounds really, really cool. And the fact it got really, really positive reviews coming out of Toronto, and Jay Kelly didn't get great reviews coming out of Venice, although the reviews coming out of Telluride were a bit better. I think House of Dynamite has risen and Jay Kelly has fallen. And yes, it could be Frankenstein and maybe will be Frankenstein, but right now, having not seen any of these films, my choice for the Netflix film, which is going to get in, is A House of Dynamite, because it sounds really, really cool. And yeah, then we do come to Jay Kelly. And this was one of the surprises. I mean, I think this has been a genuine, strong contender from right at the beginning of this prediction process. And then the reviews coming out of Venice were not good. And suddenly, George Clooney, Adam Sandler, and to a lesser degree, Laura Dern are no longer acting contenders. Noah Baumbach, who was never a strong directing contender, is really not a contender for Best Director anymore. And maybe not even Best Original Screenplay with Noah Baumbach. I mean, this was co-written by Emily Mortimer. That's a really strange combination of people, Emily Mortimer and Noah Baumbach. And apparently Emily Mortimer's in the film as well. But yeah, it did not get positive buzz coming out of Venice. Coming out of Telluride, that was a little bit more positive. So who the hell knows? But eventually we are going to have a general public being able to see this, and a wider selection of critics being able to see this. And we'll see how it balances out. But right now, those initial reports coming out of Venice for Jay Kelly, it doesn't seem good. So yeah, for me right now, Jay Kelly is not in the race, and it's at my number 11 slot. Yeah, and then we have Rental Family, which, I mean, I've said in many of my videos already, I've never been a strong believer in Rental Family as far as I'm concerned. The only reason anybody was taking Rental Family seriously as a genuine, legitimate, strong Oscar contender is because it's the only film that Searchlight has. I mean, yeah, they've got The Roses, which I've seen now, and was fun, but it's not an Oscar film. It has Is This Thing On, which is scrambling to finish. I mean, it's closing the New York Film Festival soon, and it's actually playing at the London Film Festival. I mean, I tried to buy tickets to the London Film Festival, but I got stuck in a queue on the website for 2 hours, and by the time I got to the head of the queue, everything had sold out, which pissed me off. So I tried to see Is This Thing On. That sounds cool, and maybe that will be the push for Searchlight. But Rental Family, I mean, the reviews or the buzz surrounding Rental Family is that it's sweet, it's charming, it's nice, it's wholesome. It's not an Oscar movie, which is kind of what I've always thought about it. And the buzz coming out of Toronto, that's kind of what it was. And yeah, I mean, I'll be able to make up my own mind, because that's actually, that's the first film I'm seeing at the Film Bath Festival in about a month's time. Going to be seeing that, and If I Had Legs I'd Kick You on the same day. So that's going to be an interesting double bill. A very wholesome film and a very difficult film by everything I've heard about it. But anyway, Rental Family looks nice. And yes, it might be Searchlight's big push, or it might be Is This Thing On? But either way, I don't think Searchlight's getting something into the contenders, into the nominees. So we'll have to see. But Rental Family doesn't look like it's going to be anything. And yeah, then we have No Other Choice, which was one of the surprises of Toronto, because it won the inaugural International People's Choice Awards. And most people thought that it was going to be Sentimental Value, the big prize winner coming out of Cannes. But No Other Choice beat it. I mean, Sentimental Value finished second, but No Other Choice was the winner, which was doubly surprising because the Venice jury, and No Other Choice played at both Venice and Toronto, the Venice jury gave nothing to No Other Choice, which was surprising. But the Venice winners were weird this year, and I'll be talking about them later. But the fact that No Other Choice was the winner of the International People's Choice Awards, that's not nothing. And the reviews from the critics were really, really strong as well. Is that an 87 on Metacritic, which is real high. So yeah, I think No Other Choice is a genuine contender now. I mean, it's certainly going to be a contender in international feature. South Korea has already confirmed it's submitting this to the international feature race. I think there's a decent chance it gets into Best Picture. I mean, yes, it's being distributed by Neon, and they already have It Was Just an Accident and Sentimental Value. I think there's a chance all three of those could be international feature nominees, because the shortlist for France does have It Was Just an Accident on it, which surprised me. I think Germany submitting Seed of the Sacred Fig last year, a film by a dissident Iranian filmmaker, and then France submitting a film by a dissident Iranian filmmaker the following year. That's an incredibly unlikely thing, and it's been repeated the next year. So we'll have to see. And even if France doesn't submit It Was Just an Accident, there's a slim chance that Luxembourg will submit it. But if they did that, I don't think the Academy would accept that nomination. We shall have to see. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a chance that No Other Choice might be Neon's second biggest push, behind Sentimental Value and ahead of It Was Just an Accident. And if that is the case, suddenly It Was Just an Accident, which I already think is a slightly risky film to put in my top 10, that just drops out and No Other Choice comes up to replace it. Because Neil's not getting 3 films into the 10. And I think Sentimental Value is almost a lock at this point. So now the question is, which one is it going to be between It Was Just an Accident and No Other Choice? We shall have to see. But yeah, the fact it won that award at Toronto, No Other Choice, I think, is a really, really strong, really, really legitimate contender at this point. And right now, for me, it's in my number 13 slot. And next, we have the 2 films which have dropped out of my top 10 since my last video. Avatar Fire and Ash, and After the Hunt. Avatar Fire and Ash, it's simply the fact that the only reason I was really keeping it in my 10 for the first 3 videos is that sequel factor I talked about. I mean, I've always paired it with Wicked for Good. In my first 3 videos, it's a sequel, we know what we're getting, and that should be enough. But is this enough? Particularly when we have a lot of other films which, after this fall festival season, suddenly they're really up there in contention, and there's just no room for Avatar. And I think this might be a personal bias because, as I said before, I'm really not a fan of Avatar. I don't give a shit about Pandora. I mean, it looks pretty, and it's probably going to win VFX Oscar, but as a Best Picture contender, do we really need to keep doing this? I mean, the first 2 got Best Picture nominations. Do we really need to keep giving them Best Picture nominations? I'm not sure we do. So, yeah, Avatar Fire and Ash drops out on my 10, as does After the Hunt. And the reviews of After the Hunt were not good. It turns out there might have been a reason why After the Hunt was not in competition at Venice. Maybe it just wasn't good enough. I've said previously, I've never been the hugest fan of Luca Guadagnino, but it surprises me that there's such a negative reaction to After the Hunt. And at this point, I thought that Julia Roberts was a really, really strong shout to win Best Actress. I'm not even sure she's getting nominated anymore. I think she's still in my list, but not a winner anymore. And yeah, this looks like it might be nothing, which surprises me. I mean, this was my number 1 for my first 2 of these videos. My number 1 film, the film I thought was going to win the Oscar, win the Best Picture Oscar, was After the Hunt. And now I don't even think it's getting nominated. So, yeah, that's dropped out of my 10 completely. And yeah, next we have The Smashing Machine, which it surprised me when it got into competition at Venice. And it really surprised me that Benny Safdie won Best Director at the Venice Film Festival. Huh? It looks, from the trailers, like a very average sports biopic. I mean, yeah, there are whispers that he's doing something experimental and strange with it. But the trailers just make it look like a sports biopic. And he wins Best Director? So suddenly, at the very least, I think we need to take Dwayne Johnson seriously as a Best Actor contender, and Emily Blunt as a Best Actress or a Best Supporting Actress. We'll have to see where they push her. That seems like it might be a thing. I mean, of all the things that would have happened at Venice, Benny Safdie winning Best Director was not one of them. But I guess we really have to take The Smashing Machine seriously. But for me, it's currently at my number 16 slot. And at number 17, we have The Testament of Anne Lee. And the reviews for this have been positive. I mean, not exceptional like Hamnet, but the reviews for The Testament of Anne Lee have been good. The film still doesn't have a distributor, and that is an issue. There's still a chance, and I think it's actually a pretty reasonable chance, that The Testament of Anne Lee won't even be released this year. They'll push it to next year, whoever eventually buys it. We shall have to see. I mean, the obvious companies that might want to buy a film like The Testament of Anne Lee, I mean, like A24, who bought The Brutalist. If they were going to do it, I think they would have done it already. It really doesn't feel like a film that Lionsgate or Searchlight would want to buy. Sony Classics, maybe. If Sony Classics bought it, it would instantly be their absolute number one push. But again, if they were going to do it, they probably would have done it already. And I mean, yeah, the Toronto Film Festival is finished, it's done. And we still don't have a distributor for The Testament of Anne Lee. What's happening with this film? I mean, if it comes out this year, I think it instantly becomes a really, really strong contender in a lot of different categories. But I just don't know at the moment. So at the moment, The Testament of Anne Lee is at 17. And yeah, then we have a string of Netflix films. I mean, as I already said, I think Jay Kelly's momentum has slowed and House of Dynamite's momentum has raised, as did Frankenstein. Frankenstein got second place at the PCA. I mean, the Toronto People's Choice, second place, going to Frankenstein. That feels a little odd. I mean, it feels like a very populist, a very genre-going film. That winning second place, I mean, I struggle to see, at this point, I do struggle to see Frankenstein as a contender for Best Picture. I think it confirmed its place as a monster contender in the technical categories: production design, costume design, makeup and hairstyling, depending on how much they've slathered on Jacob Elordi, visual effects. The problem is it's going to be going up in a lot of the same categories as Wicked for Good, and a lot of the categories that Wicked for Good has already won for. So is that going to be a benefit or a hindrance to Wicked for Good that it's won those categories already? And will the option to give it to something else like Frankenstein happen? We shall have to see. But yeah, very, very strong in the technical categories. But as I've said in previous videos, I think there's only going to be so many slots for a blockbuster film and a horror film. And that's a descriptor that can already be given to Sinners. And if Sinners is getting nominated, and I think it's going to be nominated, is there going to be room for Frankenstein as well? I'm not sure. So we shall see. But for Best Picture, I don't actually see Frankenstein getting there. Maybe lots of technicals, lots of behind the scenes stuff, lots of below the line stuff maybe. But for Best Picture, Frankenstein, I don't think is going to be there. Now, there are another couple of Netflix films which I think are worth talking about at this point. Yeah, with the seeming demise of Jay Kelly, although Telluride was kind of positive, but we shall see what happens with Jay Kelly. But possibly Jay Kelly falling off the map. Netflix has lots of other stuff to push, and maybe they will decide to push something else. I don't think it's going to be Ballad of a Small Player. I never thought it was going to be Ballad of a Small Player, but I will be talking about that later. But they do have other options, because Netflix, not as bad as Neon, but Netflix went on a bit of a spending spree as well. And on Netflix's slate, they also have Train Dreams and Nouvelle Vague. Train Dreams they bought coming out of Sundance. It's one of the few films that got really positive responses coming out of Sundance. Basically the same team who did Sing Sing last year. I mean, this time Greg Quedar writes and Clint Bentley directs, when it was the other way around for Sing Sing. And it looks like a very poetic, a very lush film. I think it's a very, very strong shot for cinematography nomination, about a man played by Joel Edgerton who goes out into the American West and working the rail lines and finds, you know, a new life, all that kind of stuff. Looks beautiful, you know, the panoramic vistas, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, that sounds cool. And if they do think that they suddenly need to push something, maybe it will be Train Dreams. But equally, maybe it will be Nouvelle Vague, the Richard Linklater film, which is completely in French, and it is on the shortlist for France to submit to the International Feature Oscar race. So, of the 5 film shortlists from France, from the French Academy, 2 of them are directed by foreigners, the American Richard Linklater and the Iranian Jafar Panahi. And one of the others is an animated film, which I think is a decent shout to win the animated feature. But yeah, that was odd. I'm not sure what France is doing. I mean, I thought they were going to submit the Francois Ozon film The Stranger, I mean, the adaptation of Albert Camus' classic novel, but that wasn't even on the shortlist. But maybe that'll be eligible next year, we'll have to see. But yeah, France's selection is going to be fascinating. I'm very curious to see that one. But there's a chance that Richard Linklater could have a Best International Feature Oscar on his shelf at the end of the day. Although that would have mean it would have beaten both No Other Choice and Sentimental Value, which is not happening. But anyway, it could be Nouvelle Vague that Netflix decides to push at last minute. At the very least, if it does get submitted by France, they'll have a chance to promote it for international feature. And if Nouvelle Vague is the selection for France, I think there's a very strong chance it actually gets nominated for international feature. But we will have to see. And Netflix has a lot of cards to play. How they play them is going to be really fascinating to see. And then we have Mubi. And they have a couple of films that potentially could slide in here. In Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, and Die My Love. And again, of all the things to happen at the Venice Film Festival, the Golden Lion going to Jim Jarmusch for Father, Mother, Sister, Brother. What? There were so many films that people thought, oh yeah, that's got a chance to win the Golden Lion, that's got a chance to win the Golden Lion, whatever. Nobody saw Jim Jarmusch coming. I think the message for this, and I think this also goes for Benny Safdie winning Best Director, is I think this year we kind of need to ignore the Venice Film Festival jury. They seem to have gone completely off the reservation. I mean, I don't know what Alexander Payne was doing, who's the president of the Venice jury this year. But Jim Jarmusch and Benny Safdie? The question usually arises, will the Golden Lion be a genuine contender for the Oscars, for a Best Picture Oscar? And in 2025, the simple answer is no. There is no way in hell that Jim Jarmusch in this field is going to get a Best Picture nomination. It's just not going to happen. But it needs to be talked about because it did win the Golden Lion. And similarly, we also need to talk about Die My Love. Because Mubi, as I've said in previous videos, Mubi spent a lot of money on Die My Love. I think they were trying to get Jennifer Lawrence, at the very least, they were trying to get Jennifer Lawrence a Best Actress nomination. But her momentum seems to have shifted, and the other, woman going crazy film, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, that seems to be the push. And Rose Byrne, I think, is now a better chance than Jennifer Lawrence. Particularly since the last time I recorded one of these videos, we now have a trailer for Die My Love, albeit it's a teaser trailer, but still, it looks kind of weird. It looks kind of art house. It looks like the kind of film that critics love, that cinephiles love, but a general audience and general Academy members, probably not. I mean, it looks cool. I'm dying to see it, but I don't think it's going to be a contender, either for Best Picture or for Best Actress. And I don't think Mubi's going to make that $28 million back that it paid for Die My Love, but we shall have to see. And yes, another distribution company that kind of needs to change track at the last minute, because Michael, is a dumpster fire. You know, the Michael Jackson biopic, it looks like a complete dumpster fire. So suddenly they spent way too much money on Kiss of the Spider-Woman. And again, it looks cool, but a musical about queer love in a South American dictatorship prison? You think that's going to be a Best Picture contender? No. But Lionsgate has absolutely nothing else, so Kiss of the Spider-Woman needs to be on this list, albeit quite near the bottom. And, oh yes, now it's time for me to be a little bit smug. Because in my last video, in exactly the same position at number 24, I had Nuremberg. And there aren't enough reviews to have a Metacritic score yet, but the ones that do exist are surprisingly positive about Nuremberg. This looks like it might actually be a thing. And I was there first. I was the one who said, look at Russell Crowe playing Hermann Goering. Why is nobody paying attention to this? And the critics' reviews we've had so far, and again, not enough to have a Metacritic score, but the reviews we've had so far looks like not only might Russell Crowe be good, it looks like the film might actually be good as well. And I think right now, this is Sony Classic's unquestioned push for the Oscars. It's probably not going to happen either for Russell Crowe or the film in Best Picture, but I just want to state for the record, I was there first. Back in July, I listed Nuremberg at my number 24 slot, and I listed Russell Crowe as a nominee for Best Supporting Actor. And people are starting to catch up, aren't they? Just wanted to say that for the record. Yes, at number 25, I have a new entry. This was a film that I'm not sure anybody knew was happening. I certainly didn't know it was happening until it was in the lineup for the Venice Film Festival. And at Venice, despite the fact that it was, as I said, a weird jury, this film, The Voice of Hind Rajab, managed to pick up the jury prize at Venice, which I don't think has quite the weight of the Cannes jury prize, which this year went to Sentimental Value, but The Voice of Hind Rajab feels like the kind of film that once people know about it, once people see it, it will speak to them. It's directed by Kaoutia Benhania, the Tunisian filmmaker, and Tunisia have already submitted The Voice of Hind Rajab to the International Feature Oscar, so I think this is a very, very strong shout to get a Best International Feature nomination at the very least. It tells the tragic story of a little girl called Hind Rajab. And in common with Kaoutia Benhania's last film, Four Daughters, it's a very interesting blending of documentary and fiction. I personally thought Four Daughters was an outstanding piece of work. It got nominated for Best Documentary Feature and was on the 15 film long list for Best International Feature. And I think should have actually got a nomination for that as well. I mean, basically, in Four Daughters, it tells the story of two daughters of this family who went off to be brides for ISIS. I mean, an Arabic country, Tunisia, two of the daughters got sucked into extremism and went off to be ISIS brides. So what Kaoutia Benhania did was she hired actresses to come in and replay incidents from the lives of these girls and interact with their real sisters, their real mother, and through this detached acting out, things coming to the surface, things being said, which there's no other way for them to be said. I mean, it was an incredibly powerful piece of work, a really strong blending of documentary and narrative feature, and I thoroughly recommend Four Daughters if you think you can handle it.
اللي فهمته من الفيلم اللي مش يكون دوري كما دور روس في فيلم تيتانيك. هي مش تحكي في حكاية فاتت، فما ممثلين أخرين اللي هم مش يمثلوا الواقع اللي متاع القصة هذيك. معناتها إني روس.
ألفة عندها 4 بنات، الجوز الصغار آية وتيسير مازالوا عايشين معاها، والجوز الكبار رحمة وغفران كليهم الذيب. وزادة باش تتعرفوا على الجوز ممثلات اللي باش يمثلوا أخواتكم الكبار.
اما فما ممثله باش تعوضك وقت اللي انت شي حوايج صعب عليك تنجمش تعملها.
هذا هو الجانب الخايب في الفيلم، ندير برشوا في الجروح نتاعو.
اكسيون.
اي اما مازلت ترى اللي اي حاجه عندها علاقه ببدنهم.
طب بدني ملكي يعني ما ملكش حاجه. جاتك القوه هذه كلك منين طلعتي بيلك اليوم هذا؟ هاو كان نلقى وقت نشدها نبرك عليها كيف من هكا، والله قاعده نعبر يعني نحكي في الفيلم مش نحكي في الدار.
انت وشني الغلطه في هذا؟ سامحني شنو
يا انت قالت لك طفل باسني،
انت ما بوستش في يوم
كان باسني وانا ناخذ الثاني وناخذ الثالث. خاطر كيف ما قالت لك نفس اللي تمارس عليها هي في حياتها عملته فينا احنا الكل.
اختك وين؟ ما نعرفش.
بقول لها برشا حاجات اي.
في الفيلم هذا باش نحاول نحكي حكاية بنت ألفة.
And The Voice of Hind Rajab is another film which does blend documentary and narrative. Hind Rajab was a little Palestinian girl who was trapped in a car in Gaza and was surrounded by Israeli forces. And she managed to get a phone call to the Red Crescent and said, please, can somebody help me? Send an ambulance. I need to be rescued. And the Red Crescent did what they could, but it's a war zone. What can you do? And this little girl, Hind Rajab, died as a result of Israeli gunfire. And what Kautia Ben Hania has done is taken this real phone call, the real voice of Hind Rajab, with the full cooperation and participation of Hind Rajab's family. The real voice of this little Palestinian girl is in this film. And actors are playing the Red Crescent volunteers who are desperately trying to rescue her, to save her. Now, that just sounds like a complete gut punch of a film, doesn't it? And as soon as I heard about this film, I thought, oh yeah, that's getting nominated at the very least. I mean, Sentimental Value is almost certainly winning International Feature, and if that doesn't, No Other Choice is going to win. It's probably going to be between those two, but I think The Voice of Hind Rajab has a very strong chance of getting nominated for Best International Feature. And I think there's circumstances where I can see The Voice of Hind Rajab actually getting a Best Picture nomination as well. Again, as a kind of protest. I mean, I think the general consensus about the Middle East has shifted. I mean, we had, that, open letter, criticising Jonathan Glazer for talking about Israel and Palestine in his acceptance speech for the Zone of Interest. But there were protests about No Other Land winning Best Documentary Feature last year. And the Palestinian director of No Other Land had his house raided not that long ago by Israeli forces in the West Bank. I think public perception has shifted, and from being completely anti-Hamas and pro-Israel, I think the world and the UN has started to recognise what is going on in Gaza as a genocide. That's the only way you can describe what is happening in Gaza. And the more people are accepting that, the more people are realising that, I think a film like this, a film like The Voice of Hind Rajab, can be a kind of clarion call for Academy member to say, oh yes, I see what's going on in Gaza and I support it, and if I vote for this film, that will say something. So I think there's a chance that could happen. It's unlikely, it's a slim chance, but I do think there's a chance. And I mean, yeah, The Voice of Hind Rajab. I mean, this was the film I was desperate to see at the London Film Festival. I desperately tried to get a ticket this morning. I was on the BFI website before the 10 a.m. time when tickets were available, and I still managed to find myself in a 2-hour waiting list for tickets, and by the time I got to the front of the queue, they were all gone. So yeah, that pissed me off. But yeah, I think The Voice of Hind Rajab as a film is something to pay attention to, and I'm putting it on this list as one of the contenders. And yes, now we come to the maybe section. First off, we have a couple of films that I have more information about now than I did previously. The first one is Roofman by Derek Cianfrance. I mean, I still think, weirdly, this is going to be Paramount's big push for the Oscars. I don't think it's going to get anywhere because I've now seen the trailer for Roofman. It just looks like a pretty mainstream movie, similarly to Darren Aronofsky's Caught Stealing, which I've actually seen now and isn't going to be anything. But yeah, Channing Tatum living in the roof of a Toys R Us while he's on the run from the law. It looks like a fun film, doesn't look like a contender. And yeah, Heather, I was so hoping this was going to be a thing because I am such a huge fan of Tessa Thompson, and to a lesser degree, but I am still a fan of Nia DaCosta, the director, as well. But Heather looks like it's absolutely nothing. I mean, despite the fact it did play at the Toronto Film Festival, it's getting a 1-week cinematic release, and then it's immediately going onto Amazon Prime. Oh, fuck off, Amazon. I mean, with After the Hunt seemingly not actually being anything, maybe you could have pushed Heather a bit harder, but apparently not. It's going to be almost immediately on Amazon Prime, and therefore it's no longer a contender. Yes, and then we have a string of neon films. I mean, as I've already stated, sentimental value, it was just an accident, no other choice. At best, The Secret Agent and Sirat are going to be the 4th and 5th priorities for Neon. I mean, again, very strong chances for international feature. I mean, The Secret Agent has already been submitted by Brazil. Sirat is on the 3-film shortlist for Spain, so it might not get submitted because I've seen Deaf, the Spanish film that's on the shortlist. It was a cute film. And Romaria, the film by Carlos Simon, that's another one I'm going to be seeing at Film Bath. I can easily see either of those films actually being submitted by Spain, but if Spain does submit Sirat, it might get a nomination for Best International Feature, but as a Best Picture contender, I don't think The Secret Agent or Sirat, I don't think either of them are going to be a thing. And yes, then there's the other neon film that was left over from last year, The Life of Chuck. And since the last time I recorded one of these videos, I've actually seen The Life of Chuck now, and I didn't really like it. How did that win the People's Choice Award at last year's TIFF? I mean, it's a film that splits into 3 sections. And the middle section, the one where Tom Hiddleston just stops in the middle of the street and starts dancing to a busking drummer. I mean, it's a beautiful sequence. You might even call it some magical sequence. But the film as a whole, I really don't know what it's getting at. I mean, the whole of the first section of the film is basically predicated on a line of dialogue that's in the third section of the film. And I don't really see the connection. I mean, I don't think it's a universal experience that that line of dialogue in the third section would naturally lead to the entirety of the first section. I don't buy it. I really don't. And you might say it's sort of like empowering and heartwarming and all that kind of stuff. No. Frankly, I was a little bit baffled by The Life of Chuck. I mean, yes, that sequence with Tom Hiddleston dancing is a beautiful sequence, one of the best of the year. It's not better than the I Lied to You scene in Sinners, but it's a beautiful sequence, Tom Hiddleston dancing. Other than that, no. Oh, and Mark Hamill, absolutely not a contender for Best Supporting Actor, which he was a lot of people's choices. So yeah, I wasn't expecting a lot from The Life of Chuck. Didn't like it. And I don't really like F1 either. Or, pardon me, F1, registered trademark. The movie, it's a sports movie, and I think the ending is deeply irresponsible, but it's got enough technical stuff in it that it might sneak its way into Best Picture. I mean, like Ford versus Ferrari was a similar kind of thing. I mean, Brad Pitt go vroom vroom. You pick up a sound nomination, probably a sound win. You pick up cinematography, you pick up visual effects maybe. Maybe that's enough to get you into Best Picture. It's not on my list. I thought it was a sports movie, not a particularly good one, but it's still on the list. And another great is still on the list. I think Sony Classics now has a much, much better option in Nuremberg. They might even push Richard Linklater's Blue Moon ahead of Eleanor the Great as well. I mean, I hope that June Squibb gets some serious consideration for Best Actress, because I really think she deserved it last year for Thelma, or the year before, whenever Thelma was. But this seems to be a little bit divisive as a film, so we shall have to see how that plays out. Ballad of a Small Player. Now, since the last time we recorded, I've actually seen the trailer. I think it was just a teaser trailer, but we have seen a trailer for Ballad of a Small Player, and I don't think it's going to be a thing. I mean, the reviews coming out of, I think it was Telluride it played at, the Metacritic score is not good. But I think Colin Farrell's performance in Ballad of a Small Player, that might actually be something. But yeah, I mean, I really don't think Ballad of a Small Player is going to get anywhere, because I think J. Kelly, Frankenstein, and House of Dynamite are definitely ahead of Ballad of a Small Player in Netflix's pecking order. Maybe even Train Dreams and Nouvelle Vague. So I think Ballad of a Small Player is going to get lost in the shuffle, but it's still on the list. Yeah, then we had a couple of A24 films, which I've seen since the last time I recorded, Eddington and Materialists. Eddington was a mess. I think Ari Aster is one of those directors who clearly needs to be told to stop at some point. He needs to be restricted, because when he's given whatever he wants to do, he comes up with Beau is Afraid, a 3-hour movie about mommy issues, and then he comes up with Eddington, a film that is so scattershot, is so concerned with showing everybody in a bad light, that it didn't work. I mean, and the ending, I mean, that I really don't know what he was doing with the ending of Eddington. It pissed me off completely. So yeah, Eddington was not good. And Materialists, I think, was good. I think it's a decent shout for Best Original Screenplay for Celine Song. I think, I mean, I haven't finalised my list, but I think in my list it's going to be on the outside looking in for Best Original Screenplay, but it's certainly deserving of consideration for Best Original Screenplay. I think the things it says about the dating scene, particularly the millionaire dating scene in New York, is good. Don't think it's a genuine contender in any category other than original screenplay. I liked it. I did like it, but it's not a strong contender in Best Picture, but I mean, it's still on the list. Sound of Falling, yeah, another movie film, which is, again, going to be a strong contender for international feature. Germany has already submitted Sound of Falling to the international feature race. I'm fascinated to see it. I mean, it sounds like a very abstract, a very obtuse, very art house film. Sounds fascinating. I don't think it's going to be a strong contender even in Best International Feature, but yeah, it's still on the list. Yeah, The Rivals of Amziah King. Okay. Since the last time I recorded, The Rivals of Amziah King does have a distributor. After its really strong showing at the South by Southwest Film Festival, it remained unsold for months. And now it is being distributed by Black Bear, who is the company who produced it. It's basically being self-released. I mean, and Black Bear has had a distribution arm in the pipeline for a while, and by the sound of it, The Rivals of Amziah King is going to be the first film that Black Bear Distribution is going to be putting out there. And also the film Christie, the Sydney Sweeney boxing movie, that's also being distributed by Black Bear. So yeah, I mean, and the reviews for that weren't good. The Metacritic score for Christie wasn't good. So yeah, I think Sydney Sweeney is no longer a really strong contender for Best Actress. But yeah, The Rivals of Amziah King and Christie, I think, are going to be the first releases under Black Bear Distribution, because that was the Black Bear production company that made them. I don't think The Rivals of Amziah King is now going to be released in 2025. I think Black Bear are going to push it to next year. And B, because it's Black Bear and they've never done this before, this is going to be the first time they've distributed a film, let alone run an Oscar campaign for a film before. I don't think it's going to be a contender in either this year or next year's Oscars, which is a shame, because by the sound of it, it sounds pretty good. There was so much excitement, so much buzz surrounding this coming out of South by. And now it's just vanishing into the ether as we watch. But sometimes that happens. Late Fame is still on the list. This also doesn't have distribution yet coming out of Venice. But the reviews have been good. I mean, as you would expect. I mean, it's a somewhat respected filmmaker in Kent Jones, a respected cast in Willem Dafoe and Greta Lee, and the premise sounds pretty cool. I mean, this poet who, years later, as he's working as a janitor, is suddenly rediscovered by a younger generation led by Greta Lee. Sounds cool. Sounds low-key, sounds small-scale. It's not a Best Picture contender, probably. I mean, Independent Spirit probably is its best shot. But yeah, I'm fascinated by Late Fame, and it's still on the list. But yeah, not a contender. I do need to put Is This Thing on the list. I mean, I'm really not sure how to deal with this. The fact, at time of recording, it's probably still not actually finished. I mean, I know it's premiering at the New York Film Festival soon, and it is playing at the London Film Festival. This is one of the films I was kind of trying. It was on my list of potential films I wanted to get a ticket for at the London Film Festival. I think this might be just too late to be a legitimate contender. It's going to be eligible in this year's Oscars, and right now I think it might be Searchlight's best film to push, but I don't know. But it is coming out. It is from a distributor who has a history of getting films into the Best Picture race, so I do need to talk about Is This Thing On. It does need to be on the list. And finally, I just wanted to mention on this list, Weapons. I have done a reaction to this film, Weapons. I actually should be recording that. I should be editing that reaction instead of doing this video. So yeah, I have seen Weapons, and I mean, Amy Madigan has been getting a lot of buzz for Best Supporting Actress. I get it. Personally, I don't see it. And personally, I don't see Weapons as an actual contender, because Warner Brothers already has a prestige horror movie in the running in Sinners. And if Warner Brothers don't push Sinners, they're going to be pushing one battle after another, and they're probably going to be pushing both. So Weapons, a horror movie, a somewhat elevated horror movie, but a horror movie nonetheless. Why would Warner Brothers do that? I mean, it's good. I enjoyed it. Creepy imagery. I mean, it's not quite as creepy as some of the imagery that was in Barbarian, Zach Cregger's previous film, but creepy imagery. But no. Weapons, I think, deserves... I just wanted to mention it at the very end of this video, but it's nothing. As far as actual Oscar contenders goes, even for Best Supporting Actress, it's nothing. But yeah, that is the final film on my 40 film list. There we have it. My latest list of contenders for the Best Picture race. And for the third different number one in 4 videos in sentimental value. I mean, by the next time I record one of these Best Picture videos, it could well be Hamnet that's at the top of the list, or something else entirely. We shall have to see. But for right now, I think sentimental value is my pick for Best Picture winner. Once I've edited this film and have released it, I'll be starting work on the acting categories list, and there's going to be a reasonable amount of shifting in that, at least in some of the categories. And I also want to do an above the line video which deals with director and adapted screenplay, original screenplay. I'm also going to be, for the first time, doing an animated feature rundown in that, because I've seen plenty of the animated features, and I've heard buzz about the animated features, but K-pop Demon Hunters forever. So yes, I'm going to be adding animated features to that video. But yes, for this Best Picture video, that's basically it. And I think that is where I need to leave you. So all that remains for me to say is this has been a presentation of the A&A on my channel, and I'll see you next time where I shine a light on TV and cinema, both obvious and obscure.